What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm here to solve that all-important question: what PC case should I go for in my next build? Well, I've got together 5 of my favourite cases for all different budgets with all the different features you could possibly want. I'm going to show you what to look for in a PC case and give you my straight-up recommendations. Everything I talk about will be linked in the description below, but without any further ado, let's dive into it. This video is kindly made possible by RemoteHQ. It's an awesome online platform that allows teams to work together just as if they were in the same room. RemoteHQ lets you set up an awesome online environment, installing the apps that you and your team need in exactly the places you want them. Plus, being completely web-based, you haven't got to download any apps, you haven't got any risks of viruses or malware. It keeps things super simple. What's more, they've got a really cool tool that can capture meetings for you and your team. It can log all of the notes for us, so no one's got to worry about taking minutes or faff about doing that later. One of my favourite features, though, in this online workspace is actually the shared browser. It lets you and your team be literally on the same page. You can open different tabs, but you all see exactly the same thing. No more sharing a link in a chat that you can't find. It's all there with RemoteHQ in one place. All you've got to do to get started is head to the first link in the description below, remotehq.co/GeekaWhat, and use code GeekaWhat for 3 months completely free. Go and give it a go. It's an awesome tool, especially for the current online working environment. Now, I'm not actually going to start off with the cheapest or the most expensive. Instead, start off with the best of both worlds, with the best case that sits in that middle of the road market. This is the Cooler Master MB320Al or MB311Al. The 320 has an acrylic front panel, so isn't quite as good on airflow, but the 311 is probably a better buy, with mesh all at the front complementing the extra ventilation on either side. What's more, you get 2 addressable RGB fans included at the front of the case, which gives you plenty of airflow, and despite having no rear exhaust fan, this is going to mean more than enough air can flow through your system. But it does actually include an RGB splitter and controller for those front fans, so you can boot this up out the box and be ready to go. But what if you really are on a budget and want the cheapest case you can find that doesn't sacrifice too much on quality? Well, this is actually from Aerocool. Now, I know Aerocool have a reputation for making like $28 PC cases, which is ridiculous, but this thing's a little bit more premium. It is sort of $40, $45 RRP, has an actual full tempered glass side panel with a hinged door. You can kind of see if we get a close up on the hinges. This is obviously where they save a little bit of cash. This is a cheap hinge. I mean, like, you can just pull this off. That's not expensive, but the amount of value you actually get in this case is pretty extraordinary. In terms of size and form factor, it's very similar to the Cooler Master case, but it is a little bit more plastic fantastic. This case's standout feature, though, is actually found when we take off the front panel. Here you'll see we actually have a 200mm RGB fan. Yes, I said that right, a 200mm RGB fan on a budget case. Now, is this worse or better than 2 120s? You know, they've only put one fan in. Well, these fans are a lot more expensive to make and buy, but also their huge size means the fan blades can spin really slowly, and thus the fan's super quiet and still pulls in loads of air. All in all, this is probably the best Aerocool chassis I've seen today, and I've ran 3070s, 3060 Ti's in here without too much of an issue. But James, I've got a little bit more money to spend. I'm on the bougier end of the PC market. I want something more premium. I want more fans. I want more RGB. I want more mesh. I want everything. And that is where this comes in. This is the Cooler Master TD500 mesh. You've got a mesh front panel on the front with behind 3 of Cooler Master's airflow pressure optimized fans as well, which are also addressable RGB. The case is available in both black and white, and I've built in this chassis in both colours a couple of times at this point. You get more premium features not seen on our other cases today, like rubber grommets for each of your cables, more bona fide water cooling support, like I'd very comfortably put a 360mm rad in here from Cooler Master or, you know, Corsair. Basically, if you want a PC that has a few more bells and whistles, you're popping a 3080 in here, this is probably the case you want to go for. And at around $99 RRP, though prices are subject to change, of course, just a little disclaimer there, then it doesn't really get much better than this. Before then we move on to some of our honourable mentions today, some other chassis I definitely recommend but missed this list for a couple of crucial reasons. This is the big daddy. This is the case you buy if you've got loads of cash, you got a 3080, a 3090, you want a water cooling setup. This is the chassis for you. But James, how do you know it's still in the box? Well, this is actually my second Corsair 5000D/5000X. ATX. This case is available in a couple of different variations. This is the kind of airflow model, so it has a mesh front panel, but you can get a glass front panel with a load of Corsair IQ fans as well. This is an ATX full tower case that almost fell off the table. Not only is it absolutely huge, but I always struggle to get these off. There we go. It's got not one huge tempered glass tinted side panel, but actually a second one if you go for the slightly more expensive non-airflow glass version at the front. This airflow one though has these really cool airflow panels. A little something like this. That's a super kind of thick mesh, which is going to allow plenty of air to go into that case today. And we've also got another one of these at the top of the chassis. So this thing is absolutely crammed with water cooling support. Now there is one little caveat I would have about this case, and it's pretty bare bones in terms of fans. Now if you go for the non-airflow version, you actually get more fans included. You get some RGB ones as well. But I think Corsair's approach here is that if you're a modder or you're an enthusiast builder, you might actually be buying the top-end Corsair alloy fans or some nice Lee and Lee fans anyway. You also can see here where the radiator mount comes in. Minor case disaster on the floor, but we'll deal with that later. So you can go for a 120, a 240, a 360, a 280. You've got loads and loads of options here, which is really, really nice on both the backside and on the front. But James, you're only at 4 cases. Where's number 5? Wow, number 5 is actually a few. Now, hold up. I know that sounds like I'm cheating, but there's a few honourable mentions that didn't make today's list that we've actually tried and we've built in and we'd still recommend, but don't quite fit into that top 4 or 5. The first is the little brother to this case, the 4000D Airflow or the IQ 4000X. They're a great case that rivals something like Cooler Master's TD500 mesh. But like with this case, you just don't get those included RGB fans unless you spend more like $120, $130, which is still not too bad, but is a little bit of a downside to bear in mind. There's also a couple of stupidly high-end cases out there that I wouldn't recommend for any first-time builder, but are probably a good option if you want something a little bit special. We built recently in Razer's Tomahawk case. I think I've actually got it down here. And the reason I wanted to mention this properly heavy behemoth of a chassis is that it comes with some features I've just never seen before that are actually really quite innovative. For example, a click to kind of close and open magnetic side panel, which is pretty awesome actually. I like that. Ignore the awful cable management. You also get in this case, so cumbersome, this fold down access for your drives and stuff, which is also really cool. So you've got your kind of hard drive cage at the bottom here. That's quite nice. We quite like that, with a window for your power supply. The final honourable mention today then is actually a case from Antec that I really like, called the DF600 Flux. We've used it once again in a couple of builds on the channel. One of those will be linked in the cards up here. It's a special Cyberpunk edition build, and with RGB fans at the front, room for like 5 120mm fans excluding the top, so like 7 fans maybe. It's a ridiculous case, and it comes in at a phenomenal price point. I would say though that it's not quite as refined as something like a Cooler Master TD500 mesh, and the acrylic on the front, while great for airflow, isn't particularly good in the dust filter department. Once again, not a deal breaker for me, but when you look at the cases in top 4, top 5 today, they have all of these features on lock without any issues whatsoever. With that being said though, that pretty much wraps it up for my case roundup today. Something a little bit different. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see me, I don't know, take a look at the best gaming monitors to buy in 2021, or the best, I was going to say power supplies, but that'd be quite boring, you know, the best peripherals, headsets, radiators, coolers, all that good stuff, then drop a like rating and let me know in the comments down below. But as always, thanks for watching, and I think we'll see you in the next one.